So I just wanted to jump on here and show you guys a plugin that I love. It's called Filmbox. I've been using it since probably like 2021. And yeah, I just really love this plugin. I think it's super useful for doing film emulations. So it's a plugin called Filmbox by Video Village. I've been using this plugin since 2021, I think. I don't use it on everything, but I have used it in some way, shape or form on a lot of my projects over the years, because I always want to get a pretty good film emulation on my stuff. It's just, I enjoy shooting on film and I enjoy trying to recreate the look of film, and Filmbox is one way that has made it very easy in Resolve to kind of get there. Now, this isn't a free plugin, it is a paid plugin, and they have like a subscription or a lifetime version that you could buy. Personally, I pay the subscription, but I use it in a lot of my jobs, so it's always sort of like covered in my expenses in that way. So it maybe doesn't make the most sense if you're now starting out and it's not making financial sense in the sense of that you're not getting paid to use it. That being said, it's really powerful, and I really think it's a great plugin to get your footage looking very film-like. One of the things that they say on their website is that it's very good film-like emulation, which I think is cool. Like, they don't, initially it was not something that they were trying to emulate one stock or the other specifically, so much as like get the characteristics of film down right. But actually in their latest update, Filmbox Pro, they have sort of done that, and so they now have drop downs with presets for like a lot of different film stocks, both cinema and photographic stocks. So there's a lot that you can build off of here now, and everything's adjustable. What I would say that I really like about it is that Filmbox gets you really close to the look of film, even closer than like the standard grain and halation effects that you get in Resolve. Those are great, but they take a lot more work dialing them into like the specific parameters of, say, if you wanted to make something look like 16mm or 35mm, like when you go in Filmbox, it's just there and it looks right. And so to me, it's worth the money. So I'm just gonna drag it on. I have a bunch of footage from the Alexa Classic. No, I have a bunch of footage here from the Alexa Plus, which me and my buddy Dylan have, and we've been using to shoot a bunch of different commercials and other projects over the years. And so this is just a timeline with a bunch of different shots in different situations from the Alexa. So let's just jump into the project. I'm on the timeline level of Resolve, and I'm just going to drag Filmbox Pro on. And as you can see, one time it sort of dials you into space. And I mean, if you drag through it, it's already looking good. Like, without having to do much of anything, the color science, the density of the reds and the blues, like the warmth, when you look at like a flat image to dragging Filmbox on, it's like, okay. And as you can see, you can emulate different film systems, right? But what I would say first is that you look at your source, and well, this is ARRI footage, so I have it in ARRI log C. If you were shooting Blackmagic, it would be the Blackmagic film 4.6, red log 3G, log 3G10, or S-Log3, whatever camera you're shooting on, you plug that in here, and then you could get whether you want to make it look like Vision 3 or expired stock. So obviously that's like more muddy blacks and stuff like that, and more of a green tint. You could do bleach bypass, Ektachrome, all of these different film systems. They even have like photo black and white and photo reversal E6, photo color C41. I personally like the if you go into like Cine and you look at like CineStill 800, I shoot a lot of film stills on CineStill 800. So when I saw that they updated the plugin and it had CineStill in there, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And they did a great job, even if you look at it, they did a great job of like dialing in the halation and those sort of characteristics of CineStill. If I go through the menu really quickly, you have, let's pull it back up. So you have all of these different levels, As you can see, Filmbox Pro is on and off. You're looking at this shot here. So you can change your film system, you can change your mode, whether you want to do negative or print only. So I guess that's if you wanted to create like different, like really emulate the film process in terms of your negative all the way down to your print. And you could set up, you know, the look of each different one and how they work together. So I don't know the ins and outs of all of those details, so I wouldn't go with that here. But just for my purposes, dragging it on, it already looks good. I think this is like we're at a good base point. There's a camera function here, which is for you to be able to adjust your exposure up and down, right? This is obviously affecting my whole timeline because I have this on the timeline. Temperature, right? Warm and cool. Tint, magenta and green. Yeah, so you could do all of your color correcting and balancing here. Then you go into negative and you can choose your gauge, whether it's grainy 8mm all the way up to 65. 16 is a happy medium because you could, on YouTube, you could actually see the grain for you guys. You can change to all these different types of categories, stylized, right? But I like, as I said, cine category with Cine Still 800, or even 400 is cool. Cine Still 8 has a little touch of green in there that's kind of interesting. Then you could do color and tone, so that's like what the color qualities and the tonal qualities of the stock are. Halation, and so you can, you know, you can adjust, you can add your halation. So as you can see on all the highlights here, there's that nice film-like blooming, and you could, you know, spread the radius, decrease or increase the strength, adjust the sharpness of it, right? The aura, which is like, I haven't even played with this, but I think that's just the kind of glow around the glue, like the spread of it. So you have the aura, you have the color, where you can like pump the colors. I find you tend to have a lot more red in halation in film, so I pump the red up a bit and even the saturation up a bit, because when I've shot 16, I've seen that sort of quality. Maybe pull back the radius and strength a touch because it's a lot, but you could definitely see it's kind of like all over the image. If you take that off and back on, you can see the difference there. Yeah. And so after halation, as you can see, there's like tons of parameters for all these things, and there's grain. You can take the grain off, so you can remove any one of these parameters or the other. If you just want to mimic the color science of, you know, Cine Still 800, but you don't want the grain, you could do that, right? I like a little grain. Let's put it into 35. We bump the strength up a bit, and I tend to like the saturation down a bit on the grain, not so much color in the grain, right? And maybe make it a little bit softer, maybe. But you could do everything: softness, roughness, streaks, the tonal distribution. So like whether you want most of your grain in your highlights and like none in your shadows or mid-tones, and you could actually adjust that now, where now you can see that most of the grain is actually affecting just the highlight areas of the image, which is pretty cool. I think that's a really neat addition to this plugin. And then aside from that, you could adjust the granule brightness, the brightness of the bright granules and the dark granules. I mean, like you could get really granular. And then there's all these functions here like dust. And so you could have typical, very light, occasional. So I think, you know, when you put very heavy and you get like some nice dust going on, or some super heavy and smudgy, and you can see all those flecks of dust on film, make it look like really old film happening. But they've done it in a way that's not like a cheesy plugin where like you're like, oh yeah, you put, you know, a film look on that. Like it actually looks like film. It's pretty impressive. Gate weave, so like the way that the gate weave, the slipping of the film on the gate, and you could get from the different cameras, like Super 8 will be a lot more apparent. You're seeing that jitter in the image. Whereas if you put it, and you like say I crank that up just to show you, like it's really jittery. That's how it would be on Super 8 on a Canon 1014, but maybe I have an Atom XTR, so like I tend to like to use that one just because it's my camera. And then there's flicker. You could get slow breathing, 8mm, color breathing, and that way, if I give that some strength, you'll see there's like a pulsing happening. There's a pulsing happening in the image. That's interesting. I'll take the flicker off for now. And then in lab, you have all of these other settings in terms of the richness, which is like the saturation, and the vibrance, which is, you're seeing the greens of the images. So richness, I think, is more like reds and skin tones. Vibrance is more like greens and yellows, that kind of stuff. Color density, so the density of the colors, whether they're like deeper. The contrast of the image, and then the push-pull process, so whether you want to like, push it or pull it or stop. So I mean, right out the bat, like that's looking pretty cool. And let's just scrub the whole timeline so you can see how it affects all the other shots. Some kids playing in the living room. And yeah, I mean, it looks like, it looks pretty filmy. I'm pretty happy just out the bat. So this is not me showing you how to grade with it. That halation is pretty wild. But it is a nice tool to have in your arsenal to just get like a really solid film emulation out the bat. This video is not paid or any kind of sponsorship. I'm not getting anything from them. I just like the product. I think it's a great product. As I said, I've been using it for a couple of years now. And it's not like what I use on every grade, but I definitely do have a lot of fun with it. They have another function that I like about it, where you can actually choose to not do a film emulation, but just do grain and halation. I can't seem to find that right now, but there's usually something that allows you to, right? And so then, yeah, as you go down, I skipped these things, but you could do, the split toning, split toning is like, I'll just crank it in. You see it, you get like that, the 2-color split tone, where you can shift these shadows and highlights into these sort of like purple and like green and orange and red and green and all these sort of split tones. So you could kind of like dial that in, and then you could pull it back. And so you just have like a little touch of that split toning happening in the image if you want. And printer lights, I haven't even messed with these. Let's see. Red. Oh. And you could mess your image up. Okay. Take printer lights off. So yeah, there's a bunch of settings that I haven't even like looked at yet. Acutance, I guess that's like sharpening. And so as you can see, straight out the bat, yeah, that's definitely like some kind of sharpening. Coarse detail, which is kind of cool that you could do that. It does give it a kind of a HDR-y look, maybe, yeah. But yeah, so Filmbox is one of my go-to plugins when I'm grading. I love to play with the different parameters of it, and they have, as I've just shown you, they have a lot of great options now for choosing different stocks and building interesting film-like looks. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more content like this, feel free to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you know when I post more of these videos. And also, I've just started a newsletter, so I'm going to drop the link there below too if you're interested in getting more, just the kind of stuff I'm into creatively, filmmaking tips and tricks, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so that's my little overview of Filmbox. I think it's a great plugin, as I said, and yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below.